All right, I think we are safe to begin. So welcome to the Orchestrated Kickstart webinars. My name is Mike Ivacek. I'm a senior consultant here for Encompass/Orchestra. I'll be hosting the presentation today. In today's webinar, we'll be covering an overview of the financials module within Orchestrated. And with that, I just want to send a reminder that these webinars are kind of the Kickstarters. So they're high-level overviews are targeted towards new users or users that just need a refresher on the best practices in the software. So with that, I think we're safe to begin. We're going to take a look at our agenda for today. So we're going to go over financial concepts in Orchestrated. We're going to take a look at the chart of accounts. We're going to see what GL determinations are. We're going to take a look at manual postings or journal entries. We're going to take a look at some reconciliations. And then we're going to go into a database and go through a demo of everything that we went over in the presentation, along with allowing you guys to utilize that Q&A functionality as we're going through this presentation. If you guys have questions or comments, we'll try and answer them during our demo. And also, just like to put this one out there, I'm not an accountant, and our support teams are not accountants, so we can't give financial accounting advice, but we can help you with how to use the tools in our ERP software. And if you've been to any of my other presentations by now, I'd like to talk about the continuous cycle. We've been categorizing most of your orchestrated experiences, and today we're going to focus on the financial parts of this. All right, so let's address some concepts that will provide context to the way financials are handled and orchestrated. One, real-time accounting. So transactions auto-post journal entries behind the scenes. Through each process, purchasing, production, sales, etc., defined by item group by default. And if you've been to any other of my presentations, you'll notice that I like to dive in. When I make an AR invoice, I'll right-click and look at that journal entry behind the scenes to show that. Number two, manage by exception accounting. So this system is made to help you focus on things that deviate from the norm, made to stand out. Alerts can be set up to minimums, variances, or credit limits. So rolling periods, and you can find that in administration, system initialization, posting periods. The system utilizes monthly and yearly posting periods. Transactions are managed by their posting date. This is why we emphasize dates when entering and processing documents. Documents posting date tells Orchestrated when to date those behind the scenes transactions. And you can lock periods to ensure that you're safely posting and have confidence that month end or year end closings are taken care of without any issues as well. Next concept, moving average. Orchestrated utilizes a moving average valuation method defined at the item level. This is by default. Some of you might be doing a different valuation method, but I think most of the time when we've implemented or set up databases, we've defaulted to moving average. This is a dynamic cost accounting, which enables you to track real-time costs of purchased and produced items as prices fluctuate or production variances occur. The moving average costs fluctuate with any new purchase. Successful accounting relies on perpetual inventory tracking that keeps real-time records of your inventory balances. This is why we make a big deal about trying to enter things in Orchestrated as they're happening in real life. By preventing peaks and valleys seen in other costing methods, you can trust the cost of your goods as shown in Orchestrated. All right, number 5 on this, GL determinations. So GL determinations affect the GL accounts your items are hitting as they move throughout the system. These are configured at an item group level by default. So items of the same item group, i.e. hops, for example, or kegged beer, will hit the same GL accounts. You don't have to worry about mapping all the GL accounts for new items. You just need to set them to the correct item group. And we'll be going over this in the demo, of course, as well. GL determinations are set up as part of your configuration. So maybe you guys might not even be familiar with that. Additionally, if you decide to add accounts to your general ledger down the road, you have the capability of editing your GL determinations to meet those needs. And then lastly, GAAP compliance. in this software, you can't delete certain transactions, but you can reverse them. And this maintains complete records, keep a paper trail for good, clean accounting. All right. All that being said, we're going to jump into the chart of accounts now. So this is a screenshot of the orchestrated chart of accounts. It's a pre-configured based on best practices that we've discovered through working with the beverage industry. So let's take a look at it from left to right. Right to left. On the far right, we have the drawers. These are level 1 accounts. These separate accounts at the highest level. When you click on a drawer, the accounts that exist in that drawer are shown in the center window. And when you highlight an account, the account details will appear on the left. Chart of accounts is organized by levels and by segments that are 4 of each. The levels allow you to run financial reports on varying degrees of insight into your accounts, and the segments allow you to run reports on different parts of your business. So level 1 corresponds to the drawers, the highest level of insight. Here we're looking at liabilities in this screenshot. Level 2, a step down from that, current liabilities, for example, you can see highlighted, or long-term liabilities. And getting even more specific, we had the level 3 accounts. So accounts payable is that 20,000, I think is the number. Lines of credit, etc. And then that level 4 account is the actual account that has like a balance. So this is the individual account level. And that level 4 is where the transactions post to. One question I do get just on the topic of this is, can I add more levels? Yes, you can add more levels to your chart of accounts. The caveat with that is a lot of our reports are not, like most of our orchestrated reports are not set up to run beyond level 4. So you might break the ability to run some of your orchestrated reports in the system. All right. So the segments, like I mentioned earlier, are denoted by 2-digit suffix tracked on the end of the account code. -00 is corporate, you can see in this. -01 is that brewing or production. -02 is retail 1, and -03 is retail 2 in this example. And you have the ability to create as many segments as you want for your accounting needs. Some things to remember here. The chart of accounts for almost, I think probably all of you, is pre-configured. It's based on our best practices that we've discovered. We find that it covers nearly all of the customer's needs, if not too many accounts, I would say, for a lot of our customers. Remember that Orchestrated makes use of real-time accounting, so these account balances are being updated as transactions occur and documents are entered. Those postings have been item groups and have been configured to allow easier and cleaner accounting. Item groups such as raw materials, packaging, items, work in process fermentation allow you to add an item, choose an item group, and trust that it'll post correctly as it moves through the system. Item groups have GL determinations set up for them for any transaction that occurs, and we'll be going over that in a little bit. And you have the ability to add, delete, edit, or move your chart of accounts around at your disposal once you're live in your database. Changing your chart of accounts is not something we typically do before you guys go live, but I'm sure you guys have made edits throughout your lifetime working in Orchestrated. But we'll go over that as well in the demo. All right, so I keep mentioning GL determinations. The idea of real-time accounting relies on that automated posting. As you enter transactions and documents into Orchestrated, journal entries are automatically posted behind those scenes. We dipped this into a little bit last week, and then we peeled back the curtain and looked at the journal entries created by incoming and outgoing payments, like I've been mentioning in previous webinars if you've attended. And you can see in these screenshots is those automated journal entries. And you can see one in the remarks, it says incoming payments in the top one, AR invoices in the bottom right one, and then an issue for production in the left one. So the system knows which accounts to debit or credit based on the GL determinations. For example, we're looking at a finished good here. When you sell this finished good, it looks like the revenue, it books to the revenue account. When inventory comes in or goes out, the system will debit or credit the inventory account the item is assigned to. When the item is sold, the system debits the COGS account assigned to them. So when you're setting up an item, you have to tell the system how to set the GL accounts. Your options are by item group, item level, or warehouse. When using the item group GL determinations, that means any items assigned to that item group will book to the same accounts. When using the item level, the GL determinations will be specific to that item. It allows you to have different GL bookings for like different warehouses, for example. And the warehouse level GL determinations means that any item in that warehouse will book to the same account. And it's not typically used in our industry just because of the different accounting needs of items in a similar warehouse. And we'll dive deeper into this in just a couple more slides too. So item group versus item level. So you may choose to manage items at the item group level or at the item level, depending on the complexity of your business. You can choose to have everything set up as item group or item level, or use a combination of the two. So here's just a couple pros or cons to each one. So the item group is it's less to manage. Like I said, you're kind of grouping all of those items and letting the item group make those GL determinations for you. You assign that item to the group. Ideal for companies with one location typically too, if you're not having to report based on different locations, and you only get that one P&L then. Whereas the item level, it's more detailed item to the GL mappings, more hands-on, so it requires a little more work. You'll know, I think by default, some of your items are set up when you guys first implemented. Those item level accounts would be like your tap room items, for example, that get mapped to a specific revenue account, depending on if it's like draft beer or a gift card item. And then you can do a P&L by segment more easily at the item level. And during the demo, I'll be going over another option as well. It's not going to be covered on today's because it's a little more advanced, and it's definitely going to be a future webinar, but I'm going to kind of talk about an alternative to item level so you can get that detailed reporting, and it's called advanced GL determinations. But we'll go over that in the demo, just really high level. All right, GL determinations by item group. Item group determinations can be viewed on the item group setup screen. You can drill into the item group on your item master data and check out the accounting tab. So here you can see in the screenshot in the item master data, if you drill into that fin good canned, it'll pop up your item group setup. And if you click on the accounting, we can see all of the GL determinations there. And then item level, if you have an item set to that, you'll be able to view counts on the inventory tab. And if it's, for example, so if you have it set to item group, I don't know if it's on this previous screenshot. No, it's not. So if it's set to item group, the accounts on your inventory tab will be grayed out and you won't be able to adjust them because it's set to the item group. But notice that when you're set to item level, they are not grayed out anymore, and you have to set those for each warehouse if you're doing this at the item level. All right, GL account types. So what are the different account types? I'm not going to go over these next few slides, but we do have a support documentation if you're wondering, like, what does the negative inventory adjustment account, like when is that applicable for like an item or something like that? So just going over this, just giving you a screenshot, we do have a document on our support site that if you're ever wondering about like, oh, what account do I need to set here? Or do I need to set an account here? Or should this be like a system suspense account or something like that? Here's all the GL determinations and what they are used for. And Orchestrated set up a utility to help you manage this. It's called the GL determination utility. And it's an Excel-based book that lets you manage the type of determination set to a given item, You can mass update determination accounts at the item group level, item level, and it pulls in data. It pulls info in from the database, and you can update it here, and then push the changes back to the database. And we'll go over a little bit of that in the demo as well today. All right, and now manual posting. So journal entries. Let's talk about them. Orchestrated handles day-to-day posting behind the scenes, like your purchasing and stuff. But you have the ability to post manual journal entries too. So that can be found under your financials and then journal entry. So when you're making one, just doing that top to bottom, left to right thing I like to do on these, always check your posting dates, add remarks. These are important because journal entries don't tie to specific documents. So this is your opportunity to mark down what this is posting for. And then select the accounts that you want to hit and ensure that debits and credits balance, and then hit add. We also have the ability to make templates, which can ease the burden of repetitive posting. A common use is like handling payroll or a utility or something like that. Creating a template means you don't need to remember and key in dozens of labor accounts every time you need, you'll set up one and save it as a template. When you add the template to a journal entry, all you have to do is key in the balance before adding. So here we're looking at a template for payroll. It's been named and coded, and the labor accounts have been outlined. When it's time to post a journal entry using a template, click into the template field on the journal entry. So maybe I'll go, I don't think I have a screenshot for it. So you're going to click into the template field of the journal entry and select the template from the list. Templates are great for situations like this, where you're using the same accounts but posting different balances. In situations where you're posting the same balance to the same accounts on a regular basis, that would be a case for reoccurring postings. But real quick, I'm just going to go back. And this is already an entered journal entry, but you can see here that template would be white, and you would be able to do a drop down here to select a template here. Then I mentioned reoccurring postings. These are great for dollar amounts never change, like vehicle depreciation or a regular loan payment. You can add these under your financials module, reoccurring postings. So on the top half, just like a journal entry, you'll find the counts and the balances, and on the bottom, you specify the frequency of the posting. So you can see there on the bottom, first of the month, it says, and next execution would be 10/1 in that screenshot. You can also set these to be valid until a certain amount of time too. So whatever applicable to your situation. And then you can set up alerts to pop up when it's time to approve a recurring posting. So all you have to do is check off a box that says execute to post that journal entry as well. And that's what this looks like. So your recurring transactions, aside from your postings, you can set up recurring transactions if you have any that occur on a regular basis. Maybe your phone bill always comes in on the 28th for the same amount, and maybe you always have a 40K pound purchase order for your silo on the 5th or something like that. You can create one for most documents that don't contain batch tracking. It's not good for GRPOs or AR deliveries and invoices, but purchase orders, sales orders, service type invoices are all great use cases for recurring transactions. So here we're looking at the confirmation window for our recurring transactions. Up on the top, we have a list of everything that's set to post and your actions in the lower left. To create one of these, you'd create a document, leave the dates blank, and save it as a draft by right-clicking and selecting Save as Draft. Then you can create a recurring transaction template and click on the button, and those documents will be generated. And then just real lightly, there's the internal reconciliation. You can reconcile by GL account. You can reconcile by business partner. Not much on this slide besides just highlighting that. And then we have our external reconciliations. External or manual bank reconciliations are handled through a separate tool with your bank statement in front of you. You enter in the account in Orchestrated you'll be reconciling and enter your statement and date and the account balance of that date. So you can see that in the left screenshot. Click OK, and now you're ready to start reconciling. You're presented with a list of unreconciled transactions in that account up to your statement ending date, and you just begin checking them off as you complete them, compare them to your statement. Checking off the transactions adds up to your clear to book balance. You'll see that down in the lower right in the right screenshot, which you're able to compare to that statement end balance. And the tool shows you the difference as well. And you'll be able to make adjustments like journal entries or add new documents. And you can even save this and come back to it to work on at a later date. Once everything is cleared, though, you can click reconcile and you're finished with the external reconciliation. All right. So we're going to jump into a database and go over a demo of the things I presented on the screen share. I'm going to stop sharing real quick and hop into that database. All right, so firstly on our demo here, I'm going to jump into the financials module and go into that chart of accounts. So like I mentioned earlier, there's the levels of your accounts. So if I click on assets, I can see that this is level 1, and that's also what the drawer represents here as well. If I click on the current assets, that's level 2. 3 for bank accounts, and then my bank account being my level 4 account, which gives you the most detail. So within this as well, if I wanted to check out the transactions that are leading to this balance, I would drill into here. And then you can always set your like posting date range or display if you're trying to find a specific transaction. But this, by having everything unchecked, this is all of my transactions that have gone into my bank account. And from here too, I mentioned that those internal reconciliations, you have the ability down here to reconcile certain accounts. So I could want to make sure I have a cleared balance, of course, but that's how you would reconcile those accounts. And then you would click reconcile. It's really easy to edit and add to the chart of accounts as well. I can show us an example of that. Let's go into, I'm going to add in a new credit card account. So if I was going to add a new account, what I'd want to do is click on the level 3 account that you that you want this to fall under. I'm going to toggle add mode. And now I'm going to start entering in the GL account and name that I want. So just following the coding convention, that is going up by 5s each time. And then you have some other options, like is this a control account? Is this a cash account? What type of account is it? Is it a sales expenditure? Having this set up can determine whether or not you're able to select account on a manual journal entry or something like that. So these are kind of important. And control accounts, you can't journal entry directly into them. So if that was the case, you don't have that checked. And then a cash account is whether or not it's cash relevant. All right, so for this, I don't really have to do much else, and all I have to do is click add. And that's how I added an account. We can also have account details. There's like more options down here if you're needing to do specific reporting purposes. Like relevant to budget is a checkbox here that if you're running your budget reports and this is relevant, you'd want to make sure that's checked. There are like some extra things that you can do here on the account. You can also, because we can't delete an account if it has a transaction, but you don't want anybody posting to it, you can make this inactive to block any future transactions, which I've seen some customers do with like they really don't want these system suspense accounts to ever be posted into, like, and which usually when they are, it's because of like some kind of mistake with the setup. A lot of customers will make them inactive. So anybody would get an error if they were trying to post into that. So that's adding an account. What if I wanted to move things around? So you can't do that or delete an account within the chart of accounts here itself, but right underneath that, we have the edit chart of accounts. Here, you're going to select those level 1 accounts. So I'm just going to do my assets. Well, actually, I'm going to choose liabilities because that's what we're on. And let's say I wanted to move this to be first. So moving them, you can move things. Like I wanted it to be in a different level 3, for example, but I'm not going to do that. But I am going to say I want it first. So that's going to move that, and all I have to do is hit update. And now you can see too, if I move these over, if I jump back into this, it auto updates too. Like all I had to do is click back into it and it moved things around. I do that again, show you, it flipped over again. This is also how you delete accounts if you accidentally made one, or maybe just trying to clean up your chart of accounts for accounts that came in the pre-configured chart of accounts, but you're never going to use them. All you have to do here is right click. And never know what the screen share if you guys can see that, but if you right click, you have the ability to delete account. So I'm going to click that and click update, and that deleted my credit card account. Like I said, you can't do that with something that's had an account balance in it. So for instance, my main bank account, we'll look at that. If I try to delete this, well, actually, it's a control account, so it won't let me. Does the other one have a balance? It does. So if I try and delete this, it's going to give me an error saying that it has posted transactions, and that all goes back to the gap compliance that I mentioned earlier on. And like I said, if you really didn't want to, if you really wanted to make it so no one could go into that again, just make sure, oops, account details, inactive. All right, so that was the chart of accounts. Now I'm going to talk about journal entries. So if we're going to do a manual one, like I mentioned, always check your dates. Always put remarks if you can, just so you leave a trail, like why was this posted kind of thing. We were talking about templates earlier. So we have that reoccurring posting or percentage. And what the difference is there, if we have our posting templates and our recurring postings. So the recurring postings is going to have that frequency option over here. You can see here, like I have an example set up for music, and then it's a set balance, and it's always going to repeat on the first, like I mentioned. So that's reoccurring postings. And then posting templates is with, if you don't know, if it's not going to be set, but you always want those GL accounts to be pre-populated for you, you'd want to use your posting templates. And then how that's chosen here is there's that water I was just looking at, click OK, and then it pre-populates for you. Like I said, it's used commonly like with payroll or something like that, something where the debits and credits are going to change, but you don't want to have to get all those accounts in there. And then that reoccurring posting is pre-populates that way. All right. And like that's manual journal entries. You also have the ability to put in journal vouchers that would need to get approved, for example, that someone else would post. You can create those pretty easily by adding new journal entry to voucher. This looks just like a journal entry, but it's a voucher. You fill everything in, add to voucher, and then that'll sit here until someone's ready to post that. And just a real quick recap. So that was a manual journal entry, but like I've been mentioning this whole time, real-time accounting, if I make a document in here, it's got journal entries behind the scenes. So, and based on the item groups, it's going to debit that balance on my customer. And depending on what items are here, it's going to post that. So I have some keg beer and I also have keg deposits on this particular document. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the GL determinations that I mentioned earlier and kind of just go over a recap of that. So I'm going to take a look at an item. Here's our amber lager case bottled. It's under the item group finished good bottled. This is a bad example because it's set to item level. Amber ale is always different in here. Okay, so we have a different case of bottles. It's set to item group. I can take a look at all of these and see that they're all going to be the same and grayed out because it's set to item group. If you don't see these on your, if you ever don't see these on your database, it's under form settings. And if I go to table, you'll see all the different accounts GL determinations on this list here. So if I set this to item level, all of these are going to be grayed out, and I would have to set up each of these specifically per warehouse set, which can be cumbersome to manage. That's why by default, a lot of your items are set up to item group. And if I go to that item group, I can see that finished good bottled and anything assigned to that under the item group GL determination, like if it gets sold, packaged beer. If it's in inventory, finished goods packaged. COGS, packaged beer. Whereas our finished good keg is going to hit those kegged accounts. Merch. Our packaging items, our raw materials, they're all assigned an item group like this. So to make all those automated postings as accurate as possible. I did mention earlier too that there is the warehouse one. It's almost never used. I've actually never seen a use case for it in this industry. But what that looks like is if it's assigned to warehouse, anything that's in that warehouse is going to hit the accounting tab on your warehouse's setup. And I just drilled into the warehouse there. Like I said, it does make sense because you wouldn't want your finished goods like sitting in there to have the same GL account transactions as like your hops or packaging items. And that was an example of that. I'm also just lightly going to touch on what I mentioned earlier. So this is this is definitely going to be probably a webinar in the future. But if you are currently doing a lot of item level GL determinations, because let's say I have different brewing locations and I need to report on different segments for P&L, so I decided to turn on the item level. There's a better way, and that is through advanced GL determinations. And where that looks like is, if I remember, company details. Where is it? So under your settings, under your company details, this is actually something you have to turn on. And once you turn it on, you can't turn it off. So under advanced GL account determination, you'd want to check that if you're going to do this and update that. And then one second, please. Under your GL determinations, you would, if I would have selected to enable that under your GL account determinations, and I couldn't remember where that was here. System setup, financials, GL account determinations, and there it is. Once you enable it, you're going to have the option to right click or go somewhere in here. That's going to set up those advanced GL determinations. And what that does is you set up rules for your accounting. So you don't have to set up each item specifically, like item level, but instead you set up rules that say if this particular item or this item group is in this warehouse, use this GL account. And it's a lot easier to manage than item level. So like I said, there'll be a masterclass in that later down the road, but I just want to really touch on that as well. GL, here you also find some of the, I think the best example of this, there's a bank fee on this one, I believe, or somewhere, but some of your system, when you post something, like if I accidentally put a bank fee on like an outgoing payment or something, it's going to take a look at these general GL determinations as well. So if you're ever wondering, like, why is this account being hit, you might want to take a look at this as well to see what's being set here. All right, just wanted to lightly touch on that. It was a bad example, but just putting that out there that if you're using a lot of item level determinations, there is an easier way. And if you reach out to us, we can supply some more information, or a webinar might be coming out in the next year. I did mention we have a utility. Close all these up for a second. And if I go to my utilities and go to GL determination utility, I'll do a quick demo of that. I believe I'm going to have to do a reshare and because it's going to pop up a different screen. One moment. All right, so this is the GL determination utility. Kind of showing you just how to navigate this and maybe things you didn't know about it. There's the teach me about this tool button for starters. This probably isn't going to show something on your screen. It popped up a different browser window. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it gives you a description of the tool itself. So we're going to start in the manage determination settings. So manage item determination levels. If I click on this, it's going to pull up all of my items in the system, what the current GL determination is, and if I want to change that. So for instance, I do want to change this to item group. I want to change that for an item group 2. I noticed that they were set to item. Maybe I was getting some postings to different accounts that I was like, oh, this shouldn't be like that. I want this set to item group. When you make changes, it's going to turn kind of like a tan brown, meaning anything that's colored is going to get updated. Anything that's white still is not. So I want to change these items to item group determination. I can now hit process changes. And I got a message saying that's updated successfully. This tool is also really good. Like if I want to see those item group accounts, if I click on the set item group level accounts, I can now see all of the item group codes and every item group I have set up. And then I can see those GL determinations here. And I can make adjustments to them if I want to from here as well and click process changes. Same can be done for your item level accounts. Anybody that's actually running item level probably is familiar with this tool just because it's really hard to manage lots of item level accounts without coming into this like Excel format. Let's see here. And I just added all the items that are set to item level, just as an example. You can see that it's a lot to manage because it has a row for each item and each warehouse assigned to that item. So I can have 4 lines here, for example, depending on how many warehouses are assigned here. But if you are doing item level, you're probably using this to help manage and troubleshoot those transactions. While you're using this, you can also take a quick reference too. You can see a full list of your chart of accounts. This is actually a pretty cool way just to If you wanted to get a copy of your entire chart of accounts out of Orchestrated, you could copy this. You can see if an account's inactive or not as well. And you can also, before you process it, you can try and validate changes, and it'll tell you whether or not you get an error. Like maybe I have fat fingered the wrong account and there's too many digits in something. It'll let you know. All right. I'm gonna jump back to the database. I haven't seen any questions come in the Q&A quite yet. But that was all for the demo really, based on the presentation. We can open it up to questions if you guys have any financial questions.